Every gym that I've been to, somehow there is a man that feels completely compelled to come up to me for no reason whatsoever and correct me on something that I'm doing. But I'm just here trying to do a bicep curl. Why are you telling me that my arm is not curling the right way? Like my arm goes up and down. Hi, I'm Beatrice.
Hi, I'm Sangi.
Hi, I'm Shash.
Hi, I'm Leah, and this is
ZULA ChickChats.
Okay, hi guys, welcome to another episode of ZULA ChickChats. And on today's episode, we'll be talking about mansplaining. Okay, so I think before we start, maybe let's give a definition about what mansplaining is lah. So anyone can contribute to said definition.
Go. Mansplaining is basically like a portmanteau of man and explaining. So it's basically when men explain, but it's not just so simple lah. It's when men explain in a condescending way with an assumption that they know more about something than the woman that they're explaining it to, when they have no right to make that assumption. Is my understanding of it, yeah.
For that, we given context to what it's about, right? So, I mean, the reason why we have a panel of like girls as well is also because we want to share like our thoughts on the topic. Obviously, not to be like we hate men or like don't intend for this video to come off as like, oh my god, yeah, all they know how to do is blah blah blah, say us and stuff like that. We just want to explain like certain situations in which it has happened to us, and also to give people a better understanding of what is and what isn't, especially for like men out there who may or may not watch this video, to recognize like the things that they are doing as well and how it affects us lah. So I think for the start, to go into it, right, maybe y'all can share a bit about certain situations where this has happened to you.
So for me, it happened recently. I was actually flying and there was turbulence on the aircraft. So I was on the seat and I went, ooh, roller coaster, because it does feel like a roller coaster.
Yeah,
sometimes.
true.
And someone DM'd me and said, roller coaster is not the same as turbulence. And then I thought it was like, okay, I just ignored it. And then the message came after that. It says turbulence is when, you know, the aircraft goes through like air pockets, or when it goes through like jet streams, whereas roller coaster is an intentional ride that you take on for leisure, blah blah blah. And I was just like,
Are you fucking serious?
this goes into my message requests. Okay, so I went to like see the profile, then got the aeroplane, and I got aerospace engineering over there on the profile. I was just there like, day. No, aerospace engineering, we get it. Just stay in your own fucking runway. Don't come to my runway. It's okay to always discuss about the topic. It's different. Discussion is very different from the tone that you use.
Yeah.
And some of them say, oh, you know, it's not like intentional. It was just like a joke. But then phrase your joke properly. Like, for example, if this guy had told me about something like that, like you asked me a question or just like played it off as a joke, I would have just probably like replied and played it off as a joke. Like, I don't understand when people always explain things when nobody asks you to explain.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the things about mansplaining.
That's like the fundamental principle, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if nobody asks you, don't talk.
Okay.
So I get mansplained to a fair bit at the gym. So I do CrossFit and I have been working out for quite a long time, and I do like strength training. Every gym that I've been to, somehow there is a man that feels completely compelled to come up to me for no reason whatsoever, get in my breathing space and correct me on something that I'm doing. And I get it, you know, like you're in a gym environment, you sometimes see people doing whack ass shit and they're like definitely gonna pull a muscle, and you go up to them and be like, hey, I think this is a bit dangerous, but I'm just here trying to do a bicep curl. Why are you telling me that my arm is not curling the right way? Like my arm goes up and down. My mom is a certified personal trainer. Okay,
Sheesh.
I grew up with someone who was taught and paid money to teach people how to exercise. Maybe I'm not curling my biceps to get as swole as you, but I'm pretty sure I know how to move my arm up and down.
But like, okay, so one thing that potentially these guys may be like, oh, but I was just trying to help. They come off as like, I just want you to do it the right way because like I want what's the best for you. But there's this whole graph like or table that explains, right? Like, did she ask for you to explain to her? No? Then
You should probably shut up right now.
yeah, it's like it's the whole way you phrase it. I feel like it's the tone that it's condescending. That's why you feel it's mansplaining, right? Because if this like, you know, actually you're not curling it right, versus like, oh, by the way, actually I'm not sure, but I think that you know, maybe this might be a better way for you. I don't know if you've tried this before, and then there's some room for discussion for you to kind of like explain yourself back as well, rather than just them telling you and then you're like, okay, cool.
I mean, I agree with that, right? I think like when we said at the start, the difference between mansplaining and just like a regular conversation is number one, tone.
Yeah.
And not to tone police you guys, but yeah, like you wouldn't like it if someone just came across to you and phrased something as like, do this way because I say so, right? You don't like that. And sure, it can come from a well-intentioned place, but good intentions also come with a good tone.
Yeah.
So, you know, tone matters, and sometimes phrasing things in a way where you're trying to like just tell someone like gently how to do something correctly rather than being like, do it like that. You know, that makes all the difference.
For sure.
How about you? Okay, mine is like my brother. who
Your
is-
brother! oh no!
But, okay lah, he's fine most of the time. But there's this once when my mom was driving after a long time. My mom's the type who has to think out loud. It started raining, then she's like, oh no, where's the swipey button? Then my brother, in the back seat, he is 15 or 16 at this point, okay? The most driving he knows is like Mario Kart, like I
Or
don't
like
know.
the arcade, then he drive
Yeah,
the car.
oh my god, what does he know? Okay, then he was like from the back seat. He was like, "It's obviously there. You can see, right? Like you just press that button. It's over there." One. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Firstly, it wasn't there. Like, and he can't see from the back seat what he's talking about. Cause I didn't want to like just like shut him down because I thought this was like a learning opportunity for him. You know, like,
Wow, model sister
yeah,
award.
I was like, okay, so like, why do you think you know this? Then he was like, just common sense. Then I was like, why do you think my mom doesn't have that common sense? Considering she went for classes to learn this, and it's not common sense per se like driving, like it's acquired sense.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, actually, I'm just guessing. Oh, then I was like, you don't sound like you're guessing. Like, give it as a suggestion if you think you're guessing. Then he was like, yeah, okay, I know, like angsty 16-year-old vibes. Then I was like, yeah, like you're mansplaining. And he was like, I don't think I was mansplaining, but I was like, it's not about what you think, it's about whether you did it or not.
My instance would be like gaming, for example. I mean, for sure, I definitely know that I'm not the best at playing this game. But if like I'm in some context, it's like we play the game and you can like talk in the game and stuff. And then if they hear that my voice is a girl and then I play like not to the best of my ability because I'm still like trying to practice or whatever, then they'll like backseat game me. Okay, like there's a difference. So for example, I have friends who help me out in the game, right? I tell them like, can you tell me like what I'm doing, or like can you tell me where to go, for example, or like how do I improve this, and then they give me their advice. Or if I do something wrong, they'll let me do it like wrongly first, then they'll be like, oh, actually you shouldn't have done that because like in this case why you shouldn't have done that is because of this, because they know that I want to learn from them. But for some random ass person on the internet in this game telling me what to do, I'm like, did I ask for your fucking opinion, broski? And then when I don't listen, or like I don't do what they tell me to do because they think they know better, they'll be like, go back to the kitchen. Like the most common phrase in gaming to girls is go back to the kitchen. And they say it in such a way that it's like that people just like get accustomed to it. I mean, I think it's also because in this like area, right, guys are also very toxic to each other in the game. Yeah, because it's that whole like how of like competitiveness, right? It makes guys very like they think they know better. And I think sometimes it's scary when it's in the workplace. Like these situations are outside, you know, like in hobbies. They're not directly your supervisors. They're not people who, you know, have an impact on your work environment, right? In positions like that, imagine you're trying to make a presentation. Like imagine if your female colleague is trying to make a presentation and someone just tells her like, okay, thank you, but like, and then reiterates everything she says and then says it in his own way. That's like mansplaining on another level. Also, in other situations where the impact will be worse as well. I mean, workplace is one. Like, I think that's the biggest one, right? Or is there any other?
I think
places?
personal relationships or like like I dated a mansplainer and that was very traumatic. I was having a conversation with an ex background. When I was in university, I did English literature. One of my major concentrations was gender studies. And I was very big on like feminist literature and everything, and still to this day. So one day I had this conversation with said ex about a beauty contest where the winner of the beauty contest, for once, it was of a minority. And I was like, oh great, you know, I'm happy this is happening, but obviously people in the comments were pissed. I said like, why can't we, you know, have something like this, celebrate it for what it is and not make it into a whole big thing.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't understand why a person of color, you know, winning this award is something people are getting mad about. And I thought he was on my side, right?
Right.
I was like, oh my god, yeah, you get what I mean. Then he's like, yeah, but I also don't understand why a Chinese person winning the contest all the time is problematic. You know, I explained that beauty standards in Singapore are very primarily like Sino-centric. We celebrate a Chinese model, and when someone of the minority wins, that should be celebrated, right? Because we are an ethnically diverse country.
True.
And I was like, yeah, but then what you're saying doesn't make sense because right now, if you're criticizing the Chinese beauty standard, then aren't you demeaning women inherently? And then basically like fucking condemning my diatribe and telling me now that instead of me trying to champion for equality, that I am actually a misogynist.
Like gaslight you into thinking that you
gaslit me. Oh my god.
Oh my god, into you thinking that you are the one that is like making women feel bad. Like, you know what I mean?
It was the holy trinity of shit, okay? I kena mansplain too, I kena gaslit, then
He was also kind of racist.
and then the subtle it's blatant racism at that point, right? It was the holy trifecta and I was in the middle of it like, what did I summon on this very day here?
I will ask the IG questions, right? So Mr. Crystal was like, is it mansplaining if a man explains to another man?
Mansplaining technically applies to the interaction between, I suppose, a woman and a man. But the essence of mansplaining and what it is, which is being condescending and like talking down to someone who didn't bloody ask, that is something that applies itself to a lot of situations. So I guess yes and no. Definitionally, maybe not. But essentially, statistically, yes.
I also think that because the power dynamic between men and women is there, that's why mansplaining often applies to women in that sense. So if a man explains to a man, it's a bit different because there's different dynamics. But ultimately, yeah, the condescending tone I think definitely would apply as well. Someone said, not all asterisk guys come up with excuses or tell lies when they're trying to explain themselves.
But mansplaining isn't coming up with excuses or lying.
Yeah. It's because they're trying to use logic and facts to educate people who didn't ask them for their opinion.
But sometimes it's like the whole point about like after you call them out, then they're like, oh yeah, but I like you know what your brother did? Like, oh but like no, like I didn't mean it that way. No, that's not what I'm trying to say here, you know what I mean? Because they were proven wrong. Oh, you want to say a Lorong 8 story, the taxi driver?
Oh, yeah. What happened was, it's very common, a taxi driver came to pick me up from my place and I could see him on the GPS. He was at the industrial building, which has the same block number as mine. And I called him and I said, hi uncle, you know, like I'm here. He's like, I'm already here. Then I was like, oh, I'm actually at like the HDB. Then he like, huh? Okay. Then he like very angsty. So eventually he came, he picked me up, and this man was like, hey, you put so and so lorong. But this is not the same, you know. This is actually a different lorong. I took a moment to process. I was like, oh my god, it's happening. My mom has told me this has happened to her. And he told me that, you see that block over there is lorong so and so. Then yours also the same one. And I looked at the man and I said, uncle, I live here for like how many years already? You look at the block over there. The block number say what? The block number below lorong what? Then he looked, then hey, then why they put like that? Cannot, you know, very messy, you know. Like, uncle, I never built this building. I cannot answer for you.
Yeah.
And it's just irritating because it's okay to say, oh, sorry lah, I thought, you know, sounds a different wrong. Just say, I'm sorry because you were wrong. It's okay to be wrong, you know. But why? Why come up with
they suddenly like 100 excuses, like, oh shit, like gotta get back my argument. Like, obviously there's an ego thing, right? You don't like it when like you're wrong. So it's fine, like just apologize. Like we're not gonna, like if we call you out for it, just be like, oh sorry about that kind of thing. Like we're not gonna be mad at you for like doing it, but when you come up with excuses and lies, it's worse. But of course you're trying to say here that, you know, not all men do that. Sure, but a lot of times they backtrack their argument, especially when you can prove them wrong. Then you're just like, yeah, don't need to backtrack, just say, oh, sorry about that. I think like some advice, you know, to conclude the video, right? Like y'all can share as well. I'd like to preface this by saying that there's no solution to this problem now. We don't want to come off as like whining or bitching, because yes, at the start of it does come off as that because we're like sharing all our stories and everything. But the bigger picture is that the reason why we wanted to bring it up also is because yes, there's no solution to it, but there's always ways to try to educate people a little bit more about how this affects women. And because women are so afraid to bring it up in situations, for example, if it happens to them, it's too tiring for them to have this whole 2-hour conversation here to someone they just met, for example, someone who is their boss. Like, it's very, very hard for women to just do that like all the freaking time. And advice would be listen, for the people that you feel called out in this video, right? For men who are aggressively going to type in the comments right now, like calm down first and think about what we are saying and listen to like the problems that we have, because we're not here to attack you. We are here to just let you know that this is what we have gone through. And yeah, maybe if you still disagree, like we can't do anything about it. You know, there'll just be people who disagree. Your lived experiences matter too, of course. Yeah, but you know, it's always about trying to find a balance and to understand people. Maybe not us because we're not your friends, but in your social circle, maybe next time when a woman talks to you, think twice before you say something. Like that's just a main takeaway for me, like at least.
I think I strongly resonate with like, if you feel attacked by this, like you feel like, is this video talking directly to me? If you feel that way, then you should really ask the woman in your life. Like, I mean, if you have the balls for it, ask them if I've mansplained to you before, or if not, you can ask, have you been ever mansplained to before? And I think a lot of...
Before you continue, when you ask that, they say something and then you explain, but no, I never did. Don't do that, please. Like, if you ask them, right, be prepared to hear things that you are not comfortable with.
For sure. I think at the end of the day, mansplaining is just about like courtesy, I think. Like it's about like having good conversations with people. So it's like, it's only gendered because maybe one gender does it more. But at the end of the day, even for women or like for everybody, just see whether you are like being condescending in conversations or like it's a good opportunity to just like introspect and like, don't feel attacked.
Facts, no printer.
Yeah.
I think like as much as they three explained about how like as guys they should have like their own checks and how we should have checks, I think to all my women out there who have been like mansplained before, just know that like what we've all mentioned, unfortunately is a part of conditioning. So don't like succumb to it in a sense. If you feel like someone's like mansplaining to you, maybe you can voice out to them, talk to them about it and see where it goes, because I think that really like shows character, you know, and that helps you determine if this person is worthy of your friendship, worthy of your time, and worthy of like your relationship as well.
Alright, so that was a long ass conversation that delved into things that were more intense than intentionally planned at the start, but it's okay. For all the people who have things to say about this topic, women and men, please leave in the comments down below. I hope you guys can understand where we are coming from, and we would like to see what you have to say about this, and hopefully we can keep the comment section relatively friendly and not aggressive. Like, please do not come at us with comments about appearance and all these things. Like, it's not related to this video. Let us know what you want us to talk about next time, and don't forget to, of course, like, share, and subscribe. Don't dislike. Okay, bye.
Bye.